Hey everybody, David here, and today I am going to be telling you my rankings of all the MCU movies. That's right, all 22. I've been talking about the MCU all week, and I can keep going on, but I do have other subjects and movies and shows that I do really want to talk about. So I'm deciding to kind of put a little closure on this week because guess what? I am going to go see Endgame again for a third time. Why not? Everybody else is, and I really need to see some of those scenes again. The whole movie again because I just can't get enough of it. I love the film. Some people might be surprised where I might be ranking it, though. Maybe not. We'll see. But yes, this is my ranking of the entire MCU because I really do love all these films. I'm going to tell you what, my least favorite film on this list is an 8 out of 10. And even though it's an 8 out of 10 and it's my least favorite of the bunch, I still really enjoy it and get a kick out of it. So, unlike the DC universe, there's a couple of misses there where, like, the lowest ranking I have there is maybe a 6. This one, to me, the MCU is so much stronger and so much better. But then again, it always comes to whoever you are and what you like more, what you're willing to put on the side that doesn't bother you so much. So that just comes to who the person is that's watching these movies. So you might not like the MCU, but I think it's hard to hate all of them. If you hate all of them, I don't know, there's something wrong. But if you I think there's something enjoyable to take away from some of these films. But for me, it's all of them. So let's get right into it. The number 22, I'm not going to put a lot of info on why I'm putting it here or why not. Maybe I will on some of them. But for the most part, I'm just ranking them all. And you guys can comment below and put your lists in because I do like seeing what other people are saying. What's their list? I've seen so many other people's lists either on Twitter or on other YouTube channels just because I'm always curious to see what their list compares to mine. So here is my list for all the MCU films. Starting right now, number 22, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp. I actually had this one a little bit higher when I first saw it, but now it became my least favorite of the bunch because I'm starting to be aware of a little bit more of its weaknesses, and maybe the thing that really got people was really the end credit scene. It's still a fun movie, but yeah, I do see more of the weaknesses the more I watch it. So, moving on to number 21, I have Captain Marvel. This one is more or less the same as when I first saw it. I like Captain Marvel. I only seen it once, though. Maybe it will... oh, no, I've seen it twice. Maybe it will change when I get it on Blu-ray and I watch it a few more times. Maybe it will grow on me, or as the MCU continues to go, because sometimes they do set up things in other movies that will pay off eventually down the road, which I think here will be the Skrulls, but we'll see. For now, Captain Marvel, towards the bottom. I still liked it, but there you go. Number 20, I have Doctor Strange. I really do love the visuals here, but visuals aren't enough to really put it higher on my list. And I love the character of Doctor Strange, especially in later movies, but hopefully his sequel will be even better, so we'll see. Moving on to number 19, I have the original Ant-Man, more or less the same as it always has been since I first saw it. Really enjoy it, just not the best. Number 18, I have Iron Man 3, which used to be a lot more stronger. There was a time where I had Iron Man 3 above Iron Man 1 and 2, but I've come to grips now saying, okay, maybe it's not the best Iron Man movie. Maybe it's not even one of the best MCU movies, but I don't hate it as much as other people do. I don't let that Mandarin twist bother me. It's still an enjoyable film. Moving on to number 17, I have The Incredible Hulk. I love this movie. I think it's very underrated, and I think Edward Norton is a better Bruce Banner than Mark Ruffalo. I still love Mark Ruffalo, so don't get angry at me. I think he is a great Bruce Banner, especially in Endgame. But look, Edward Norton is a really good actor, and it would have been interesting to see what the MCU would have become if Edward Norton would have stayed along for the ride. I don't think we would have gotten what we got now. So in some ways, I'm kind of thankful we got Mark Ruffalo, but in some ways, the what if idea still intrigues me. So moving on to number 16, I have Captain America: The First Avenger. This used to be my least favorite MCU film, but it has grown on me as the years gone by, and I did see a video that kind of stood up for this movie that I am now on the page where it's like, yes, this is a really good movie and very underappreciated. So, Captain America: The First Avenger, you deserve more, and that's why I've grown to love you and appreciate you a lot more. So, I love you 3000, Captain America: The First Avenger. Moving on to number 15, I have Iron Man 2. Yeah, I really like Iron Man 2 a lot. A lot of people say they hate this one and think it's one of the weakest. I disagree. Moving on to number 14, I have the original Thor. Still one of my all-time favorites. But yeah, the relationship between Jane and Thor is kind of weak. And, looking back at it more, seeing how much the Thor world was being held back from us, that's why it's kind of a little bit lower on my list, because I think we get a better representation of Thor and his world later on. Moving on, number 13, funny enough, Thor: The Dark World. Why is Thor: The Dark World above of the original Thor? Because I know a lot of people put it the other way around. And it's because I really do love that relationship between Thor and Loki and their relationship together, how they're linked together still because of their mother. And I like the stuff with Odin. I like the stuff on Asgard. Yes, Kat Dennings isn't that funny. There is actually one joke that always makes me laugh. It's when her assistant throws the keys down and she asks, "Was that the car keys?" That joke always makes me laugh. But other than that, yeah, her jokes fall flat most of the time. And yes, the Jane and Thor relationship still sucks in this movie. But I don't let that ruin this movie. And some people complain about the Dark Elves. I look at them exactly the way I look at the Frost Giants in the first Thor movie. They're the same. So, with that being said, I think the true villain of this movie that we really want to see is Loki. Even though Loki, this is his turn around, there's still a little mischievous side to him in this movie. So that's what keeps me interested in the Thor films. Moving on to number 12, I have Spider-Man: Homecoming. When I first saw this movie, I had it a lot more higher on my list, but I've come to terms that even though I still really love it, it's maybe not the best film in the MCU. It's still one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man films, but I think I would rank Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse over it. I still really love this movie. It's a really enjoyable film, really a lot of fun. So, and I love Tom Holland as this character. Can't wait for Far From Home. But yes, Homecoming is right here. After all, it is his first full film in the MCU. And the first one, he has to get his foot in the door. Let's see where the sequel goes from here. Hopefully it's one of those sequels that's even better than the first one, because this one's really good. Moving on to number 11, I have Black Panther. Just like Spider-Man: Homecoming, this one was a lot more higher on my list when I first saw it. But again, as you watch films a little bit more than once, you see some of its weaknesses. It's still a really good film in my opinion. Just, it had to go lower because there's some other films that I really enjoy. Number 10 on my list, I have the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, the more I watch Guardians of the Galaxy, the more I love it. And I remember when I first saw it, I had not mixed feelings, but I liked it a lot, but I didn't see the potential. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I like it a lot more than when I first saw it. So, because I used to have some other films that I already said on this list higher than Guardians of the Galaxy, but now I'm starting to see how good these characters are, which brings us to number 9, Avengers: Age of Ultron. That wasn't a good transition because I thought it was something else. But yes, Age of Ultron. I really like the sequel. You know, when I first saw it, just like everybody else, I was kind of not disappointed, but like I felt a little underwhelmed. But as I went back and rewatched the film many times, I realized this is actually a pretty good sequel that gets a bad rap for not being as good as certain other MCU films, and I think people should go back and rewatch it because especially now that we have Endgame, there are some things that are really enjoyable to watch, and I think the final battle with Ultron is really takes it to the next level that the first Avengers did with the Chitauri army. So I really do like this movie, and I like the introduction of Vision. Yeah, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are maybe a little weak, but knowing where Scarlet Witch goes from here, I really do appreciate that character a little bit more. And we can look, for people that complain that the MCU fakes too many deaths, Quicksilver is not back yet. So I think he's going to stay that way. And I think it's good for the character of Scarlet Witch because it helps her, I think, progress as the series goes on. Moving on to number 8, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. People are going to shake their heads and scream in terror, like, what? How can you have this movie over the first Guardians movie? I'm going to tell you why. This movie makes me laugh so hard. Sometimes I almost faint at how hard I laugh at this film. I think this movie is hilarious and is unfairly attacked for being too funny. But like, wait, so we're attacking a movie for being too funny now? What? When did this happen? Like a movie that's really funny, we should be giving it points because I'm telling you, the MCU sometimes can be funnier than most comedies nowadays. So I really enjoy this movie. This is the first MCU movie to actually make me tear up. I tear up at the end when Yondu dies. His sacrifice makes me cry, and his funeral makes me cry when everyone's gathered. And the sister bondage between Nebula and Gamora is really great. I love this movie more than the first one. Yes, I'm not scared to say it. Attack me. Go for it. Moving on to number 7, I have the original Iron Man. The original Iron Man's great. I'm not going to deny it. But guess what? To me, it's still not the best MCU movie. I never thought it was in the beginning. I thought it was a really, really good movie. One that I think still stands pretty well. There are some things that are getting dated, but I don't think as bad as other films out there in the world. And I'm not just talking about MCU. So I think Iron Man still holds up pretty well. But yeah, it's at number 7. So moving on to my 6th favorite MCU film, Thor Ragnarok, easily the best Thor film, and one of my all-time. This is where for me the MCU gets really good. Is starting with Thor Ragnarok. Like these are my favorite films. So much fun, and I already love the Thor character in general. So to give me a movie like this makes it really satisfying. And adding Jeff Goldblum in there and Cate Blanchett and Karl Urban. I mean, this was a great Thor film. For those of people that didn't like the Jane and Thor relationship, they drop all that and they know what makes Thor work and what makes him cool. And adding the Hulk in there too. I mean, such a great way to end the Thor trilogy. Even though this one feels very different from the first 2 Thor films. So moving on to number 5, I have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Just like everybody else, I thought Captain America was my least favorite Avenger for a while. Maybe Hawkeye was a little bit lower than him, but yeah, he was like the geeky one. Like he was like the dork of the Avengers. I don't know if that's a good thing to say, but seeing what Captain America: The Winter Soldier does with him really elevates his character, I think, and makes him more into a badass hero, in my opinion, and makes me look back at Captain America: The First Avenger differently. That's why that film rose on my list, because now I go back and see that film and see the seeds that they have planted for this character and how they set him up, and remembering the world that he came from and how different it is today. Really, I think that's really what makes him a more interesting character in the present day, is because he realizes this is not the same world I used to live in. this world might be a little messed up from the time that I came from. So I really love seeing that and making it a conspiracy thriller. I think people that love conspiracies, you'll love this. I don't believe too much in conspiracies, but I do think that it works for the story that they were telling, and that's what it kept me on my toes when I first saw it, and I still love it. I think there's some of the best action sequences. If you want real action, this is the movie that really gives it to you. So, moving on to number 4, I have Captain America: Civil War, the movie that really changed the game. In terms of the story of the Avengers and where they are, it shakes the Avengers up. Zemo doesn't get the love as a villain that he should. I think he is a villain that really had an interesting motive and he accomplished it. Like before Thanos accomplished his mission, Zemo accomplished it for he was really the first villain that won anything. And people are like, "Oh, Thanos is the first villain that, actually truly accomplishes." No, that was Zemo. Zemo was the one that teared the Avengers apart. Thanos should be going to Zemo and thanking him for tearing them apart because of that, he was able to do what he was able to do. So, yes, this movie, fantastic all the way. There is a part of me that really wants to put it higher, but man, there's so many great MCU movies. Moving on to number 3. Shocker. Endgame. I have Avengers Endgame at number 3. And you know what? I want to tell people this movie could go higher on my list as the years go on. But there are things that we have all talked about. I'm not going to spoil nothing. There are things we have all talked about that I'm kind of with people on. But as I'm reading more from theories and from reports from the directors and such, some of those patches are starting to get fixed. And for an example, I gave this movie originally a 9 out of 10 when I first saw it. I did bump it up to a 9.5. So things are getting fixed. I don't know if the movie will get a 10 from me, but a 9.5 is still really good. So moving on to my second favorite MCU film, I have the original Avengers. Maybe this is nostalgia, maybe not. I love the original Avengers. I think it still holds up. I've heard some people say it doesn't hold up quite as well for them. I disagree. For me, it holds up really well still. I can't get enough of the original Avengers, the feels that I always get. Whenever I watch it, I remember like how I felt when watching it the first time, and it still resonates to me today. So it's a simple film, yes, but it needed to be in what it was trying to accomplish, and I think they accomplished it really well. It didn't need to be a complicated film like some of the later MCU movies become. That's what you do after you set everything up, and knowing that this was the first time they were getting together, I think it made sense just to keep it simple, and I think it works on all levels. Seeing these characters from different worlds, from different personalities, and then come together and knowing where they go from here, I think is truly special. So, moving on to my number 1 favorite film, it is Avengers: Infinity War. That's right, the movie from last year that set up the movie for this year is still my favorite. I really love Infinity War, and it probably has to do with the fact that it is just like Endgame, actually, it really has a lot going inside of it. But I do feel Infinity War has the intensity level that I really liked, where I don't want to spoil anything for Endgame, but Endgame is more of a reminder of why we love those characters. This one isn't so much of a reminder, it's more of, here's the mission, we gotta do this. And you don't know if they're going to accomplish it. And by the end of it, you realize, oh crap. So I feel like I really enjoyed that a lot more. And I feel like it was more of a really well crafted film where everything, and now when you watch Endgame, you realize some things that they were setting up in this film that I didn't realize that now are all paid off. Like I said, Endgame could one day beat Infinity War for me, but right now I'm very confident that Infinity War is my favorite. I really loved getting to know this character of Thanos and how complex he was and what he was able to do. Like, he was really, I'm gonna do this mission and I'm gonna wipe out half of humanity. It's like, and the battles with him and the battles throughout, like the fights throughout this film are incredible. The special effects, everything, and the drama. I loved it all. It was like I couldn't get enough of it, and thankfully, I got another movie out of it that was just as rewarding. So, with that being said, guys, this was my list. I hope you guys appreciated it. Like I said, don't get angry if you don't agree. Just comment below and tell me your lists. And like this video, please subscribe to my channel, especially if you're a huge fan of the MCU. Because guess what? We have a Spider-Man coming this summer in July. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be other Avengers Endgame topics that I'm going to want to talk about and theorize about with everybody. And maybe even the future of the MCU. So with that being said, until next time, take care.